An aid ship called the İyilik Gemisi, or the Goodness, has departed from Turkiye's Mersin port carrying 900 tons, that's 900,000 kilos, of food and baby formula for the people in Gaza, according to Anadolu Agency. The humanitarian shipment, organized by Turkiye's Disaster and Emergency Management Authority, AFAD, in coordination with 17 non-governmental organizations, NGOs, and Egypt's Red Crescent Society, comes as the Turkish government has become a key supporter of the ceasefire agreement for Gaza. It was one of the key signatories. It sat down with Egypt and Trump from America and the like. Now, what's the catch for these goods? 900,000 is no small amount after all. Well, the Gemisi, the Goodness aid ship, will deliver aid to the Gaza Strip via the port of Al Arish in Egypt, not directly into Gaza. Well, to be fair, Gaza doesn't have a pier that can accept a giant ship anyway. It doesn't have a deep water port, for example. But the aid will go through Egypt into Gaza. That's the plan, which means Israel still has to allow the aid in, which is any plan that relies on Israel adhering to, humanitarian aid allowances, access, is a plan that's bound to brush up against Israel defending itself in very convoluted ways, like restricting baby formula, like they have been doing. Undeniably, they have been doing, according to mainstream media, legacy media, over the last 2 years, denying baby formula to babies as part of some sort of security. I don't understand. Anyway, at the time of this recording, at the time of this report I'm delivering to you, Israel has spent the last few days threatening to restrict aid into the Gaza Strip if bodies of former Israeli captives in Gaza, hostages, are not released. Now, in fact, they've already said we're going to limit. In some narrations, it's being said, in some news outlets, it's being said Israel's going to halve the number of trucks that are allowed into Gaza, because the reason they're currently using is because we haven't got the bodies of deceased captives returned to us. Just another excuse, of course, one could argue, analytically speaking, because excuses have been used time and time again by the Israeli state to be used as a casus belli, as a cause for war or a cause for breaking the ceasefires that Israel engages in, the ceasefires that Israel gets into. They make up some sort of reason and then they break the ceasefire. To be fair, loads of nations do that. They have to use a reason. They have to give a reason. It just depends on how rubbish your reason is, or how meritable a word? How much merit your reason has. In this case, he's looking very shaky. Weaponize, basically, is what they're doing. Weaponize the remains of your dead to withhold baby formula from kids. Excellent. Wow, such humanity, such democracy. Absolutely the only democracy in the Middle East. It's absolutely uncontestable now, isn't it? That's sarcasm, by the way. Now, Israel had already agreed that the remains of dead captives will not have to be given completely, all of them, alongside living hostages that were returned, because of the practicalities. Israel's bombardment and engineered crisis in Gaza, by some reports, have led to the deaths of over 67,000 people. Finding the bodies of hostages amongst that large pool of people is not easy. And Israel and America and other negotiating parties like Egypt and Turkey were aware of that, which is why the condition was not set that within the first 72 hours of the ceasefire, all the bodies of the remaining hostages that had passed away, that had died for some reason or another, potentially because Israel struck them with missiles, obviously, that's a possibility, or they starved to death, another possibility, those bodies will not be part of the ceasefire deal that within 72 hours all the bodies have to be given. But now, many Israeli officials are using this to say that the ceasefire has been broken, and aid is being restricted as a result of that reasoning being given. Tank shells have reportedly been fired into South Gaza, because remember, Israel is still in Gaza. They still occupy roughly 50% of the Gazan territory. So stray too far or accidentally into the land that they still occupy, the civilians, if they stray too far, if you're kids or a woman or a granddad, stray into the wrong, dusty neighborhood, right? Expect a tank shell of democracy to come whistling across the sands and defend itself in your torso. That's the ceasefire. Is the ceasefire holding beyond the handful of deaths? Every death, of course, is a tragedy. Every civilian death is a tragedy on both sides, any side. But practically, analytically speaking now, is the ceasefire holding? Yes. Aside from a handful of deaths that Israel is still causing, but a complete resumption of attacks like we saw over the last 2 years is not something that Israel is currently engaged in. There's no large-scale offensive to go back into the rest of Gaza. So generally, yes, the ceasefire is holding. But Israel's intentions are clear. Keep the people under severe pressure. Keep the aid extremely restricted. Make it slow and difficult to get in where aid can somehow trickle in. The United Nations has said we've got 3 months worth of food that can feed 2 million people sitting at the border. We call on Israel to let it through. Who do you believe? The Hasbara from Israel that says somehow, resistance forces are taking the food? Or do you believe the United Nations that are sitting there with cameras showing, here's our pallets and pallets and trucks of food that we're not allowed currently to push into Gaza? Why are you not allowed? Who's at the border? Israel. So, it's very clear. It's very clear. But as they say, it's not the eyes that are blind, but the hearts. If you want to believe the hasbara will be enough for you. And if you want the actual facts, then even if you're not blindly pro-Palestinian in this example, of course, even if you're not even slightly pro-Palestinian, you will at least investigate, consult the variety of sources that are now available to anyone with an internet connection, and you'll conclude that, literally, over 100 aid organizations are saying that Israel's restricting food. Do I believe them or the Hasbara, the Israeli propaganda? I'm going to go with the international aid organizations, the 100 of them that are complaining that they can't get food to civilians because the military of a country is stopping them. Mad times in the hood being planet Earth. Analytically, the solution is clear. The solution for the people of Gaza is clear. Access to Gaza remaining in the hands of the Israeli military will make sure Gaza is never allowed the aid and the equipment it needs to get back up on its feet. But that's what the Israeli state, based on the evidence, that's what the Israeli state wants. Why would they want Gaza to rebuild? Just today I read an article saying Israel's restricting heavy machinery that would be required to remove rubble and clear paths and allow homes to be renovated eventually, or allow tents to be placed, temporary housing to be placed where there were homes. Those bulldozers to move the rubble, even those aren't being allowed. Do you laugh or do you cry? Time will tell how things progress in this area, and I'll keep you posted with the unbiased news and analysis without the Western spin. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm Mahfouz, or NewsBaba. We got so much to cover. We got so much to learn. You, me, all of us. So, keep tabs on my videos. And also, don't forget, I've got a YouTube channel. When I start putting long form content on there, I'll push it a bit more. But for those who want to be early and support my work, watching my videos on YouTube in terms of monetization actually gives me more money. On TikTok, not so much. So if you have the choice, I know loads of people are on TikTok only, but if you have the choice, head over to YouTube, watch the content I put on here, on there, or maybe you're already on YouTube watching me talk about you moving to... Anyway, you get the point. I'll see you on the next one.